Good afternoon once again. So we are moving on to the last session of the seminar S&T for Homeland Security. We have gone through 5 sessions. The last session also I have conducted. This is a framework. You have been hearing about technologies, you have been listening to vendors, you have been getting inputs of all kinds. And by now, I think your thought process would be in place. And if I give you a chance, I think all of you would be in a position to give me a technological framework for safe and secure cities in India. I have my panelist. He is Mr. Ehud Weizman. He is head of sales and marketing, Cassidian. So he would be giving a small presentation on the Tetra network, which is the market worldwide. As far as I am concerned, I have told you earlier that we are in the midst of asymmetric warfare, and the whole world is today a scene of war. Where and when and how the terrorists would attack, nobody knows. This whole concept came into vogue in 1975 with Andrew J.R. Mack writing something titled that Why Big Nations Lose Small Wars. 9/11 brought it to the center stage in our thought process, and it has remained ever since. 9/11 has been a watershed in our history, and since then, whatever we thought and whatever we did has been totally different from whatever we thought and did before 9th of September 2001. This whole seminar has been focusing on Homeland Security. The Homeland Security concept has come out of the post 9/11 scenario. And as per the Department of Homeland Security, US, the Homeland Security there covers prevention, protection, response, and recovery. The technological framework, we have been talking about large number of technologies, we have been talking about sub-technologies, we are talking about integration, upgradation, scalability, interoperability, integration of databases, and the like. This is a suggestive list. This is not all-comprehensive and a master list which says that once you do this, so that is the end of the ball game, and you have achieved a total level of security and your response to the terror is complete. In the suggestive list of the technological framework, we have an ERP solution, a GIS-based crime analysis and reporting engine, which works on this ERP solution, command and control center, interception systems, Tetra radio network, city-based video surveillance system, automatic vehicle location system, and geospatial technology. So this is a broad framework. I know we are running late, and I'll try my level best to wrap it up as fast as I can. We will not get into great details. Suffice to say that all government organizations should have a enterprise resource planning software. We in Karnataka, we have a software called Police IT, which has 12 modules and which takes care of every single requirement of the Karnataka State Police. The modules are integrated in themselves, and modules are integrated across the 12 modules with the MIS overlaid on that. This is a multi-module application software. Historically, it's been islands of isolation. We talk about integration, we talk about deployment, we talk about rollout. So this is, I think, it is a necessity. When we talk about post-incident responses, so the injured are sent to the hospitals and all other activities are over. What is next? Next is investigation. I would like to make one thing very, very clear, that whatever we have been talking about is only one part of the story. And a high-quality investigation and a fast trial and the terrorists being punished, I think that will go a long way in sending the right message and all other technological framework would assist in the direction of proper investigation and a proper trial. I'll not get into the architecture, functionality of ERP solutions. I don't think that is the purpose of this particular session. What I would intend to say is that finally, as it has been often repeated, but very rarely done on the ground, is that we are not able to obtain the right mix of people, processes, and technology. Today, the networks have to talk to each other and not human beings. Only when the networks talk, only when we get actionable data, only when we get comprehensible data, only then our work starts. Human intervention starts at that point in time. Based on the database so created, we have a GIS-based crime analysis and reporting engine. There is a software called Police IT in Karnataka. The database of this software, it is an automatic feed to the crime analysis and reporting engine. As we move ahead to the CCTNS, there is something called a core application software. The core application software intends to create a national database which would provide as a ready reference to all police agencies for information related to crime and criminals. So broadly, all forms of data would come to your database, and that feed will go to the crime analysis and reporting engine. We have been using this software for a couple of years, and we intend to use this, changing our feed from Police IT to the core application software of CCTNS. The data from the State Election Commission has also been overlaid on this to make it more sensible by way of the population and other such details. So put in a comprehensive manner, we are in a position to get clear-cut details of the environment in which the crime has taken place, which also becomes very critical in large number of issues related to scheduled castes, backward classes, different castes, communities, religions, so on and so forth. Benefits of this project is to analyze and display the crime trends and crime patterns and related crime data to socio-economic and other spatial factors. Spatial factors, the importance of spatial factors have reached to an extent where the Department of Homeland Security in one of its documents says that human intelligence and spatial intelligence, those combined on whatever we have been doing, will provide you the real actionable information. Command and control centers, I think it has been talked about day in and day out. Before we start on to the next phase of command and control systems, next phase of a technology which is at a much higher level, which is extremely costly, so to say, we have large number of systems in place. The integration of these systems has to happen in the first phase. We have an automatic vehicle location system in Bangalore. You have a control room for that. We have a control room for Dial 100. We have other Dial 100, you've got a software management system for that. So all these things combined, first they have to come to a level of complete integration, and then the scalability should arise. So the requirement of scalability cannot be at the expense of doing away with the legacy systems and creating something new. Once you go ahead in decimating systems which are functional, the learnings of the organizations are also lost. So what we intend to do is to take these legacy systems ahead, integrate with the ERP software, and try and deliver something which is out of the organizational learning. It is not implanted in in a totally different environment. And the end users again have to struggle from scratch to reach a level of proficiency. I don't think there would be anybody who would have a difference of opinion with regard to command and control centers. The way it should be handled, there are standard practices across the globe. We have best practices available. The ability to take ourselves to the global standards, so that is the issue. We have had issues with related to communication between the law enforcement agencies and the top executive of the state were in the background of the Bombay attacks. So those issues can be handled, can be dealt when the appropriate technology is placed. We have Ehud who would be telling you about the Tetra network. And it is my opinion that Tetra network, it is a technology which is better than GSM when we require it for public safety networks. The C4 functionalities, we'll switch over to Tetra later. The C4 functionalities nearly takes care of all our requirements from incident management, video management, sensor management, situation at the glass. There's some wall which we have been talking about, which have all the details for the chief executive, for the commissioner of police, for the functionaries who are supposed to decide on these issues. There are interception systems which have to be in place. Those interception systems, primarily, I'm dealing with only things which are voice, fax, SMS, and things of that nature. For our law enforcement agencies, what we need is a unified monitoring center. We need data mining, visual analytics, GIS locations, speaker ID, and more. And on the tactical side, we have tools like Hawk, Osprey, and Honor. What do we intend to intercept is voice, fax, SMS, and data. It starts with deciding on who is the target, and finally, we are in a position to cull out data from the vast database across these 4 domains. The mass interception architecture, we have basically the software and the processing mechanism, which will give you finally intelligent piece of information, which will give you the inter-referencing, which will give you the connectivity, which will provide you a data which has just been talked about in the last session also. What it will finally churn out would be something very different from what we think the data is meant for. In this slide also, we start with the case, targets, warrant, request, interception request, and that is how we are getting from the central monitoring center, remote monitoring center. It connects to multiple service providers, intercepts voice, fax, and the other details are mentioned in the slide. This is the user interface, is as simple as your normal emails. There is something called a Harrier, which provides you the identity, which provides you the geolocator. It will be able to tell you as to where you are, how it happens. So this is the process where you have a proxy system which takes over your communication, and we are in a position to know as to where you are actually operating. After that, you get into the direction finder, and based on the direction finder, you will be able to get your target at exactly the location where he is. So it will provide you the right direction to reach the target which you intend to. I think this is one tool which will help you interconnect with the databases, though they are still not been integrated. So this is how we start. This is the source data from the form of records, tables, graphs, reports. This is how the linkages happen. And going further, this is what you end up with. If you go a bit further, you start from the basic node, it adds on in this fashion. So these are different pieces of information. You go a slide further and you find some connections. You go beyond, there are much more connections. And you go further, this is where you end up. There might be one or two more layers which can be added to it, depending on the complexity of the purpose and depending on the subject and the target and the requirements of that particular organization. So this is the architecture. So I'll try and finish with my presentation, then we'll have youth for TETRA. So I'll not be touching upon TETRA. We have the city-based video surveillance systems, which all of you are aware, but still we don't have any city where we have a complete city-based video surveillance system. So there are certainly issues with regards to that. It might start with the procurement, it might encompass within itself even appropriate technologies. It can also have issues with regards to standards and the uniform deployment. It can also have issues where the different cities, whether they can be integrated into one country-based video surveillance network by providing access and privileges. So this is the architecture which most of you would be aware of. And video management is certainly not a rocket science now. It has come on to the normal public domain. CCTVs have been used for, I think, a couple of at least decades. And this video surveillance system, it helps in your response management, and it can give the communication on any number of gadgets. Can be in your PDA, iPhone, cells, and it can also get onto your wireless communication. So the video surveillance system, so this is basically the different layers on which it works and for the purposes for which it works is very clearly given in this diagram. The results, impact and use of video surveillance. I think one single shot of Kasab has certainly changed what we thought a video surveillance can do. There is one thing which is for sure, that most of the terror-related incidents in this world which have been investigated successfully, the input of video footage has been extremely critical. So this explains the critical importance of having a city-based video surveillance system which can be analyzed in the manner and in the speed and at the pace which it is required. We cannot keep on analyzing a huge amount of data over days and over years, and just because there is lack of analytics on it, you are not able to find out as to where the real issue is. Police primarily runs on large fleet of vehicles, and these large fleet of vehicles need an automatic vehicle location system which gets integrated into other technologies which are being used. It cannot be independent of the coordinates, it cannot be independent of whatever video footage is coming out of it. It cannot be independent even of the ERP database which you have, because there is a human element, there is a human resource which is deployed with every single technology. And when you get into the process of investigation, the number of issues which have to be correlated is certainly much more than what we can discuss in a seminar of this nature. So those issues, there are, as you talk about the internal threats and the external threats, there are also internal threats in our organizations as well. So those internal threats also have to be tackled, and there sometimes we might get information from sources where we don't expect. GPS AV-less technology is not new to the audience here. I'll just take 5 minutes before we finish with the technological framework And that is the role which geospatial technology can play in creating the actionable data. What your regular technology and your physical infrastructure and IT can do is nearly known to everybody. The launch of IKONOS satellite was supposed to be a milestone in the space development program. IKONOS satellite gives you a huge amount of spatial data. And the spatial data is analyzed by the Imaging Corporation. So there's a huge amount of processing which is required in the geospatial data till the time it reaches the end user, and the end user is in a position to use that data. And the end user, who is the operational commander, his bosses in his hierarchy of command and control, and the scientist or the IT engineer or technician who is handling the whole show, they all have to be on the same page. Geospatial products and intelligence play a key role in the department's preparation for disasters and its response to them and the support incident management. So this is what the DHS has to say. These are the geospatial assets which is available. There are huge issues with regards to the policy, that is Indian remote sensing policy. The imagery which has been time and again, it has been elaborated in most of the developed countries that resolution is the key to the right image. So if we don't get the imagery of the right resolution, so it serves no purpose. Our general requirement, say for Naxalite and other issues, would be 1 meter. What is readily available to us is 5 meters. So that dilutes the purpose to a considerable degree. Now we have our GeoCore ideas moves into technologies, data, and specialty fields. So it provides you enhanced understanding of the facility is vulnerable and speed up the detection and response time. We should have it in mind that wherever you reach by your normal processes of physical and IT infrastructure, this will be added layer and which will certainly provide you the third eye. And your operations become much more simpler, much more easier. So the final destination with regards to geospatial preparedness is to have an overall capability and capacity necessary to enable all levels to perform essential functions such as prevention, detection, planning, mitigation, response and recovery in order to minimize loss of life and property. I think we owe it to every Indian that we have a technological framework, and that technological framework is completely integrated and it is able to provide the results on the parameters with which we have started our planning and with which we have created the blueprint. I will request Ehud to finish his presentation in another 5 minutes or so. And after that, we'll open for question and answers if there are some.